Hey there, welcome. Look, if you really want to get to the heart of Indian political thought, you've got to start right here. We're talking about the foundational debate over what a nation should even be. We're about to dive deep into three completely different, monumental visions for India from three of its most important thinkers. And for anyone gearing up for the PSAR optional, let me tell you, understanding this clash of ideas, power versus morality versus justice, it's not just important, it's literally the core of what you need to know.
So let's just put the big question on the table right away because it frames everything we're about to discuss. What's the true foundation of a nation? Should a state be all about raw power and security? Protecting its borders and its people at all costs? Or should it be a mirror, reflecting the inner morality of its society? Or is its main job, its number one purpose, to actively fix the injustices of the past? This is way more than an academic question. It's a real, high-stakes conflict of ideals that plays out every single day.
All right, let's jump into our first answer. For this one, we're heading way back to ancient India to look at a blueprint for a state that's built on pure pragmatism, order, and just unwavering power. We're entering the world of Kautilya.
For Kautilya, the whole reason a state exists is actually pretty simple, and maybe a little bit stark. He basically imagined a time before government as total anarchy, a world where the big fish eats the small fish, where might makes right. And to escape that constant state of chaos and fear, people made a deal. They willingly entered a social contract. They said, okay, we'll give up some of our freedom, we'll pay taxes, and we'll let one person rule us, in exchange for the one thing we crave most, security.
Now we're getting to the real core of Kautilya's political science, the Saptanga theory. This is so brilliant. He didn't see the state as just some abstract concept. He saw it as a living, breathing body. And just like any living body, it has 7 absolutely essential parts, or limbs. And here's the kicker. They're all connected. If one limb gets weak, the whole organism, the entire state, is in danger.
So let's break down this body. What's really cool here is just how practical this is. Of course, at the head, you've got the king, the Swami. But he's totally powerless without his other limbs. His sharp ministers, his land and people, strong forts for defense, a treasury that's full, a powerful army, and, super important, friends and allies he can count on. For Kautilya, this wasn't philosophy. This was a straightforward checklist for survival. Okay, now, I want you to take Kautilya's idea of a pragmatic, powerful state and just flip it completely on its head. We're about to pivot to a vision that is its total opposite, one that asks, do we even need a powerful state in the first place? This is the argument for a society run not by force, but by morality. Let's get into the revolutionary ideas of Gandhi. So get this, Gandhi's ideal state is basically no state at all. He imagined something he called enlightened anarchy. Now, hold on. When you hear the word anarchy, don't think chaos in the streets. He meant a society that was so morally evolved, so enlightened, that it could regulate itself. People would just cooperate peacefully and voluntarily. Police, armies, all that external force, you wouldn't need it because the control would come from inside each and every person. So how would this utopian society actually work? Well, it all starts from the bottom up. Power isn't in some far-off capital. It's right there in the village. Every single village becomes its own self-sufficient republic. The economy isn't about chasing endless profit. It's about meeting everyone's needs. And the wealthy, they don't technically own their extra wealth. They hold it in trust for the good of everyone else. It's a radical vision of harmony, built village by village. And that brings us to our third vision. This one argues something different from the other two. It says the state's role isn't just about keeping order, like Kautilya thought. And it's definitely not about withering away, like Gandhi hoped. No. For this thinker, the state has to be a powerful, active tool, an engine, really, used to smash centuries of injustice. This is the vision of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. And this right here, this is Ambedkar's core diagnosis of the problem. He argued that political democracy, the whole idea of one person, one vote, is just an empty promise if you don't have social and economic democracy to back it up. I mean, what's the point of having a vote if, in your day-to-day life, in your society, you aren't treated as an equal? Without one person, one value, political rights are almost meaningless. So, what was Ambedkar's solution? It was bold and it was direct. State socialism. He believed the state needed to step in and take control of the big stuff. Major industries, agriculture, you name it. And why? To do one thing, break the cycle of inequality. To make sure wealth is distributed fairly and to actively shield the poor and vulnerable from being exploited. In his view, the state had to become the main driver of justice.
So this is basically Ambedkar's checklist for a real democracy, not just one on paper. First, you have to tackle those huge inequalities. You need a society without entire classes of people being held down. You absolutely must have a strong political opposition to hold power accountable. And then there's this crucial idea of constitutional morality, meaning everyone, especially those in power, has to be committed to the rules of the Constitution above their own interests. And finally, you have to protect minorities from being railroaded by the majority. So we've got these three powerful, competing blueprints for what a nation should be. One is all about order, one is about morality, and the third is about justice. Let's put them side by side and really see how this great conversation plays out. This table really just lays it all out, doesn't it? For Kautilya, the state is a machine, and its goal is security. Simple. For Gandhi, the goal is a moral society that doesn't even need a state to achieve real self-rule or Swaraj. And for Ambedkar, the state is an engine, and its goal is equality. Three thinkers, three completely different answers to the most fundamental question of politics. What is the state for? Now, it's easy to look at all this and think, okay, that's interesting history. But I'm telling you, these ideas are not history. They are alive and kicking. In fact, they are the invisible currents running beneath almost every single major political debate happening in India right now. Think about it. Every time you hear a debate about national security or a tough foreign policy move, you are hearing echoes of Kautilya's realism. Anytime people talk about strengthening village councils, the Panchayati Raj, or about grassroots environmental movements, that's the spirit of Gandhi's vision right there. And of course, every single conversation about constitutional rights, about affirmative action, about social justice, that is a direct continuation of the path that Ambedkar laid out. This isn't past, it's present. So after walking through these three foundational visions, the pragmatic state, the moral society, and the just state, we are left with one final and frankly unavoidable question that all of this leads up to. So what's the answer for the path forward? Do we have to choose one? Does India today need that strong Kautilyan state to stay stable in a chaotic world? Or does it need to dig deep and rediscover that Gandhian focus on community and morality? Or is the Ambedkar project, the mission to achieve true social justice, the most urgent task of all? Maybe the real answer, the real challenge, is finding a way to blend all three. That's the powerful question these thinkers have left for us to grapple with today.